only one controller file. Okay, so that is being defined on the top. So controller name, it is a standard property within a view. So if you go to the properties here, you can wait, it should extend from control. So this is the view and this is the standard syntax for that. OK, so that is the standard syntax what we have, in which like we have the controller name and all these are standard properties. OK, so now after that inside the view, we have the page. So page is the control which we always have to add it inside the view. OK, and now inside the page, we have the content aggregation. So before we add anything, let me explain one control properly. Let me explain one control properly. And after that, I'll explain you what are the properties, what are the methods, what are the aggregation and all. OK, so let's go with a simple example, that is button. So let's say requirement is to design a button now. So I'll search for button here. So I can see button is available, which is a part of SAP.m library. So if I want to use this button control, so I already have this library SAP.m, so I can use that, right? So I'm using greater than sign. Now I can type B. So make sure guys, if you're adding a control, so the first letter of that control will always start from capital case. And property names will always start from small case. Control names always start with capital case. Property names always start with small case. Aggregation name always start with small case. So that is the rule. OK, you should not declare any control which has the first letter in a small case, the control name. So it will not work. Let's say if I'm making this B as a small and if I'm typing like this. OK, so I have added this B as a button. Now let's see what will happen here. So I made B as a small. So what it says failed to load SAP-button.js from resource SAP-m-button.js. Now you got it. So there is no such library in which we have this B as a small. So that's why it is not able to load that library. So this is what the error. This is what the error you will get. So what we have to do, so we always have to make sure if you're declaring any control, so the first letter for that control should be in capital, the first letter. OK, so now we just added a button now. Now let's see. Now this time it won't give any error in the console. OK, so I'm just clearing all this console. Now can you see we have button here, right? So just now I have added one button, but there is nothing. There is no icon inside the button. There is no text inside the button. So now I just need to add a text inside the button. So how you can add that? So guys, it's like a basic question. Like, let's say I want to add a button. How you will add that?
Parameter
Equal to name.
parameter maybe to that button.
Sorry, what we can add? Parameters.
In button tag, there will be, you can go to sap.m library, you can see the text or something you can add after button.
Okay, 1 second, let me explain it.
Yeah, we add text only.
Yeah, text or something will be there in sap.m.
Yes. OK, so whenever you want to enhance the look and feel of any control, so for that we have the properties. OK, so when we go to the button, so this is the technical information about the button. So here we have the properties. So the constructor part will be covered in the controller section. So once we start with the controller topic, I'll explain what is constructor. So in button, when we go, we have a properties tab, and inside the properties tab, you can get all the different properties which you can use within your button control so that you can enhance your button control. First of all, let's say you want to add icon, so you can use a property. If you want to add a text, you can use a property. If you want to change the background color, you can use the property. So these properties will help you to change or to enhance. It will help you to change the look and feel of your controls. OK, so these properties will decide how your control will look on this actual screen. OK, so let's say I want to add a text now. So there is one text property, and the data that this text property will accept is in the string format. So we already know what is string, right? In JavaScript, we already cover what is string. So string means that we have to define a text in single or double quotes. So this text property, it only accepts the value in string format. And now after that, the default value. So on the top, if I go, so the name of, first of all, it is a name of property, the type of property, whether type of property is, if it is a number, Boolean, so that data type is there. And then the last, we have a default value. So what is the default value for that property? So that also plays. And after that, there is a description. So some description is provided just to explain like what is the purpose of that properties. So I just need to add a text property now. So the default value for that text property is empty. So by default, it is empty only. So I will add a text and I'll just specify as a click. OK, so once I add a click, once I add a text property, now within this button, you can get within this button. Can you see I'm getting one text? So guys, if you recollect, have we added any CSS for this button? Have we added any CSS for the background for this border color? And when I'm hovering on it, can you see the color is changing?
No. Cannot
No,
add any
right?
CSS.
So this controls like this control by default for all the SAP UI5 controls, there are some standard CSS are already applied. So we don't have to worry about that. OK, so
If
it's
you want
already
to
been
change the
taken
look and
care.
feel, excuse me, if you want to change look and feel of the button, so we can add in the CSS.
Yes, we can add that. OK, but that won't be covering today.
This one by default, it will come from the SAP CSS, default
Yes,
CSS.
yes. So already for every controls, there are some standard CSS which is being added as a part of library, and that library is responsible to bring all this different styling effect on these controls. OK. OK, so now let's say I just created a button tag now, and see within this button tag, I have just added this slash at the end. So this is a self-closing tag. OK, so you can also declare one more way, like you can add this button like this. See, there is a closing tag for it. So it's your choice whether you want to go with this approach or this approach. Both will be fine. There is no worries at all. OK, but if you go with this one, like you can just reduce some part of code and it will look more clear, right? It is a cleaner code you will write if you go with the first approach. In second approach, like for every tag, there will be the closing tag. So you can go with self-closing tags. OK, so now after adding a text here, now let's say I want to add an icon to the button. So is there any property? Yes, there is a property icon, and it accepts the URI of icon. So we need a URI for that. So URI, you can get it like, so you can, there is a separate, again, there is a separate documentation for icons. So there is a icons library available for SAP icons. So you can search for SAP icons library.
Excuse me, here we can use third-party libraries.
Third-party libraries also you can use. Yeah, third-party icons
example,
also.
Phantasm.
Font, right? But directly you
font.
cannot. Yes, directly you cannot declare that, but it's possible. But what SAP recommends that you always go with SAP icons only. That is a best practice.
OK.
OK, because I'll tell you like how it works. So we have this SAP icons explorer in which we have a different tabs. So we should always go with SAP icons because this icons for UI5 controls. OK, Now button is a UI5 control. So for that, what is the icon? So you can click on this SAP icons, and these are all icons which are available for SAP for the button. So let's say I need a icon for click. If it is available, I can get. So this is the click icon, what I have. So if I want to provide a path, so this is the path, or you can directly click on this copy icon. Click this, go back and just paste that inside the icon property. That's it. Only this is required. Now let's reload and check. See, can you see now? Icon is available now within that button. OK, so at least you got it now, how to declare a control and how to add a properties, guys.
I got it.
OK, so let's start with the registration form design now. So we have hardly like 15 minutes and we need to close that topic. So for designing any registration page, let's see whether any sample screen is there or not. So we'll Google some registration page and we'll see like whether we can achieve that or not. OK, so I guess we have very simple registration form here, right? So let's try to design this page now. OK, so we won't be adding any background color and all. So we'll do that later on. OK, we don't need. First of all, we just need to understand how this is being designed. OK, so I'm going to design one registration form in which like we will have a first name, last name, email and password. And after that, I have two checkbox like you can provide if you want. And at the last, we have one button, right? So this would be my basic registration form now. So to design a registration form, so first of all, we need to design a form layout. Whenever you want to design a form layout, for that, we have a library called simple form. OK, so simple form is the library or the control which is available and which is mostly used for designing form layouts. So for this simple form, if I want to use, if you see this simple form, it is located in a library sap.ui.layout.form. So I have to declare this library first, right? So just copy that, go back here, and now I'll give space. I'll add XML ns equal to sign and just paste that library. OK, so as I said, at a time only one library we can make it as a default. So this library, we cannot make it as a default. So whatever the last keyword is there of that library, I'll make it as a alias name. That's it. Now my simple form library is loaded now. Now it's time to declare a simple form control. So to declare a simple form control, this is the capital, S is capital and F is capital. So just add here colon and see, we have to provide a alias name, right? Before we add a control for simple form, add form colon and then just type simple form. So you'll get the suggestion and just hit enter. As soon as you enter, you'll get a simple form. So you'll get an opening and closing tag. Now inside the simple form, so we have just added a simple form now. Now inside the simple form, what we need a design, like we need a label which can tell this is a first name, and we need an input field for where user can enter the value. Right, so that's what the structure we require. So first we need a label. So what is a label? Label is mainly mainly used for adding a text as a label. So if you want to add a free text inside the app, so you can go with label or text control. So there are two types of control available, label or text. But I'm preferring label. So that reason I will tell you in few minutes why I'm preferring label rather than text. OK, so to use a label control, let me duplicate this tab, API reference and search for label control. So you can see this, we have a label control here and it is part of SAP.m library. So I'll copy this label. I'll go back here. So now inside here, I'll just write a label. OK, so before I write, how I can guess whether if I add a label, whether the simple form will take that label control? How I can guess that? Which control I need to add within the simple form? Because within a page, we have a content. Now inside the content, I'm also not sure whether simple form will work or not. How I have directly added the simple form control within a page content. How? So let me explain now the concept of aggregation. So there is a concept of aggregation which will decide which control we have to include in a container. So now page is like a parent and simple form it is like a child to the page container, right? So page is a container for this simple form now. But how I can decide, how I know like which control I need to add within that page? So for that, it's very simple. Go to API reference and search for page control. So when you search for the page control, so this is the page control which I have, and there is a concept called, there is a tab called aggregation. So go to aggregation, and now inside that you can see we have a content aggregation which is default. So that's why they have added a content here. Can you see this content? So this is a content aggregation. So this keyword is coming from the aggregation. Okay, inside the aggregation you can see the content. But now cardinality means how many controls you can add. You can add like you can add 0 controls or you can add n controls. So 0 to n controls you can add within that content aggregation. But what type of controls you can add? The controls which are of type sap.ui.core.control. So the controls which are belonging to this type, you can add all that controls. So now how you can know whether this simple form is of that control? So let's keep this as it is, SAP UI core.control. And now let's go to simple form now. So when I go to simple form on the top, can you see this extends here? Can you see this extends? And can you see this library here? sap.ui.core.control. And that only we need, right? sap.ui.core.control. Can you see both the details? Okay. So in SAP UI5, there is a concept called inheritance. So this simple form, it is inheriting some features from sap.ui.core.control. Means it is a part of sap.ui.core.control. Now you got it. So indirectly, it is a part of that control only, core control only. So any controls which are extending from sap.ui.controls, all that controls you can include. Sorry, what happened here? Yeah, any controls which are belonging or which are extending from sap.ui.core.control, all that controls you can include within that page content. Now you got it, guys. How I'm able to guess whether that simple form control will work or not within the page? Guys, any questions here?
Can you repeat this one?
Okay, see, I know like within this page, I have directly added simple form, and this simple form is added inside the content aggregation, right? So content, it is an aggregation. So when we talk about the aggregation, what is aggregation? Aggregation is nothing but it is a relationship between parent and child. Okay, that is meant by aggregation. Aggregation means it is a relationship between a parent and child. And after that aggregation, when we say any control as an aggregation, so that control is responsible as a container. So that control will act as a container for other controls. So in this case, page is acting as a container for simple form control. So simple form is the child and page is the parent. So there is a relationship between them now. So how that is being created? It is being created based on aggregation concept. Okay. So now there is a content aggregation available for the page, and you can see when I go to aggregation for the page. So this is the content aggregation, and you can see like I can add n number of controls within that aggregation. And the type of that control should be sap.ui.core.control. Okay. So means the simple form indirectly it extends from sap.ui.core.control. Okay. So this simple form control, it's extending some features from core.sap.io.core.control. So there is a concept of inheritance. So what is inheritance? Inheritance means extending features, let's say if I'm a child and if let's say I have like two cars. So one car is like a base model, another like it's a top model. Just consider like, so whatever the features are available in the top model, of course, like some features are already extended by the by the base model. So similarly in the control also, in the libraries also, like this simple form, it extending some features from its parent sap.core.control. So now here the parent is SAP, this core control is the parent, and the simple form it is like a child. So any control which belongs or which extend from this control, of course it is part of this control only, right? So in page, if I want to use simple form, so it's already extend from this control. So now it is part of this control. So that's why I'm able to add the simple form here. Now you got it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so how to decide now? At least you got it. Now let's say within this simple form, I want to add a label, but I don't know whether label is supported or not inside the simple form, because I'm trying to design a simple form layout. And for that, I need to add a label and input fields so that my structure can be created. But I am not sure whether that can be created or not. So for that, again, you can go to simple form and there is an aggregation here for the simple form. So there is a content aggregation for that. So just copy that content. And now you can see the type is different here, right? So type is different here. So let's see that how I can add. So I'm going to add here form colon content. So content is the aggregation supported for the simple form. And now inside the simple form, which controls I can add? The controls which are of type sap.ui.core.element. And okay, so any control which belongs to this type, so that controls I can use. So I want to use a label. I want to use label, right? So let's search for label here. So when I go top, if you see it extend from sap.core.control. So it extend from the control. Now again, if I click on this control, now if you see this control is also extending from core element, right? And if you see we need an element which extend from sap.core.element. So indirectly that label control, it extends from core element. Okay, because because inheritance concept is used. So now if I want to use a label control, can I use a label control inside the simple form? Guys, yes or no?
Yes. Yes, we
Okay,
can use
why?
it.
Because label control indirectly it extends from sap.ua.core.element. So always remember, if you are adding any control, make sure that that control is supported. Okay, so I will add now label. And within the label, there is a text property. So here I can add first name. And now I'll add it here input. So because input is also same. Sorry, for input, we should not add any value because value will be entered by the user, right, on the screen. So I just added label and input now. Now let's see the output. Okay, can you see the layout now? So I just added one label and I have added one input field, but I didn't added this semicolon. From where this semicolon is coming in front of the first name? It's coming because of the simple form library. Okay, so simple form library explicitly it adds a colon in front of the label. Okay, so similarly, I will add a couple of fields. So first name, last name, email ID and password. So I'll just copy this. I'll add it for the last name and again I'll add it for the email ID and then for the password. So I'll add last email ID and then I'll add password. That's it. So I've added label input, label input, label input here. Now let's see the output here. Okay, so I'm able to see simple form here simply, but one thing is there, the alignment is not proper, right? So if you can see, alignment is not proper here. So first name label, it's going little bit up, and input field like it is assigned bottom, right? It is not displaying properly. So what we have to do here? So we have to add one property here for simple form. That property name we can call it as editable. So when you say editable as a true, so this means this simple form is purely used for editing purpose, for adding a content, for entering a value. So what it will do, it will just assign, it will just make this label properly assigned with the input fields. OK, guys, now you got it. See, now label is aligned properly with the input fields. How? Just by adding this editable property. So this editable property is already available within a simple form. So if you go property here, properties, there will be one property called editable. OK. See, already some description is there. Label alignment to the form rows if form has editable content. Because editable content means we can edit this form, right? So this form is basically meant for editing purpose. So that's why whenever you want to make any form for editing purpose, it's mandatory to add this property editable equal to true. So guys, so far it's clear. Any question?